Most men think that as they get older, they're losing the game. They think the clock is against them. They think youth is power and age is decline. But that belief, it's not wisdom, it's insecurity disguised as logic. Because the truth is a man's peak is not defined by his age. It's defined by his presence. Have you ever noticed how some older men walk into a room and without saying a single word, people feel it? No loud voice, no desperate need for attention, no performance, just calm authority. And strangely, people listen to them more than the loudest man in the room. Why? Because real power is quiet. In this video, we're breaking down 3 masculine habits that women naturally find attractive in older men, not based on trends, not based on tricks, but rooted in Stoic principles that build real presence, real strength, and real respect. These are not surface-level habits. These are internal shifts that change how you think, how you move, and how people perceive you. If you've ever felt like time is working against you, this video will change the way you see yourself. 1. Emotional unshakability. Let's start with the first habit, and this one alone can change everything. Not your money, not your looks, not your status, just this one thing, emotional unshakability. Look around you for a second. Really observe people. Most men today are constantly reacting. They react to comments. They react to opinions. They react to things that don't even matter. A random message gets ignored and suddenly their mood drops. Traffic slows them down and now their entire day is ruined. Someone disagrees with them and it turns into an ego battle. It's like their emotions are being controlled by everything happening outside of them. And that's the problem, because a man who is controlled by the outside world is not in control of himself. But here's the truth Stoicism teaches, a truth most men avoid. You don't control what happens to you. You control how you respond. And that response, that's where your real power lives. Now think deeper. When a man becomes emotionally steady, he becomes rare. Not average, not common. Rare because calm is rare. Anyone can be loud. Anyone can react. Anyone can lose control. But staying calm when everything around you is chaotic, that takes strength. Real strength. And here's what most men don't realize. Rarity creates value. That's why the calm man stands out without even trying. Think about any stressful situation, pressure, chaos, uncertainty. Who do people naturally look at? The loudest guy in the room? The one talking the most? No, they look for the steady one, the man who doesn't panic, the man who doesn't rush, the man who stays grounded when others are losing control. Because that man feels different. He feels safe. He feels solid. He feels like someone you can rely on. And people, especially women, are naturally drawn to that energy. Not because he's trying to impress anyone, but because his presence brings peace. Now let's make this practical, because this isn't theory. This is something you build. Start with something simple, something small but powerful. The 3-second rule. The next time something triggers you, and it will, pause. Just 3 seconds. Don't speak, don't react, don't defend yourself, don't explain. Just pause and observe what's happening inside you. Feel the emotion. Notice the urge to react, but don't act on it. Because in those 3 seconds, something important happens. You separate yourself from your impulse. You create space. And in that space, you gain control. Most men never experience that moment because they react instantly. And that's why their behavior is predictable. Say something negative to them, they get defensive. Ignore them, they chase. Challenge them, they argue. Predictable. But a man who pauses, he breaks that pattern. He becomes unpredictable. And unpredictable men are powerful because no one can control what they can't predict. Let's go even deeper. Emotional control isn't about suppressing your feelings. It's about mastering them. It's about feeling anger but choosing not to act on it. It's about feeling pressure but staying composed. It's about being tested and not folding, because life will test you, people will test you, situations will test you, and every time you react without thinking, you fail that test. But every time you stay grounded, you rise. There's also something else most men misunderstand. They think they need to prove themselves. They think they need to win every argument, respond to every comment, defend every opinion. But a strong man doesn't feel that pressure. He doesn't argue to win. He doesn't react to every challenge thrown at him, and he definitely doesn't explain himself to people who are committed to misunderstanding him. He simply remains calm, focused, unshaken. And here's the part that changes everything. Over time, the world starts adjusting to him, not the other way around. People become more careful with their words, more respectful with their tone, not because he demands it, but because his presence commands it. So understand this clearly. Emotional unshakability is not weakness. It's not silence out of fear. It's control. It's discipline. It's power in its purest form. And once you build it, you don't need to chase respect anymore. Respect starts coming to you, quietly, naturally, without force. And that's when you realize the strongest man in the room is usually the calmest one. 2. Radical intentionality. Now let's talk about the second habit. And this one, most men completely overlook it. They underestimate it, ignore it, or never even realize it exists. But once you understand it, you start seeing it everywhere. Radical intentionality. Let's be honest for a moment. Indecision is one of the most unattractive traits a man can have. Not because of what it looks like on the surface, but because of what it reveals underneath. I don't know. Whatever you want. Maybe later. We'll see. These words sound simple, polite even, but they carry a hidden message. I don't have direction. And whether people say it out loud or not, they feel it. Because here's the core truth most men avoid. A man without direction cannot lead, and a man who cannot lead cannot inspire trust, not in others, and more importantly, not in himself. Now understand this clearly. Leadership is not about controlling people. It's not about dominance. It's not about forcing decisions. It's about self-control. It's about knowing who you are, what you stand for, and where you're going. It's about having an internal compass that doesn't change based on opinions, moods, or pressure. Because when a man knows himself, his decisions become clear. And when his decisions are clear, his presence becomes strong. Think about it. Have you ever been around someone who always hesitates? Someone who overthinks everything? Who turns simple decisions into complicated discussions? It drains energy. It creates doubt. It makes people feel uncertain. Now, compare that to a man who decides, not perfectly, not always correctly, but confidently. He says what he wants. He chooses a direction. He moves. That energy, it's completely different. It feels grounded. It feels stable. It feels reliable. And this is where older men have a powerful advantage, because you've lived, you've failed, you've made mistakes, you've learned lessons the hard way. You've seen what works and what doesn't. So ask yourself honestly, why are you still acting uncertain? Why are you still hesitating, like you're waiting for permission? At some point in a man's life, he has to make a decision, a real one, a final one. I will stop drifting. I will stop waiting. I will live with intention. Because drifting is easy. Letting life decide for you is comfortable. You go where things take you. You follow what others suggest. You avoid responsibility by avoiding decisions. But there's a hidden cost to that life. You slowly lose respect for yourself. And once a man loses respect for himself, everything else starts to collapse. Intentionality is how you rebuild that respect. And it doesn't start with big decisions. It starts small, very small, in the way you speak, in the way you move, in the way you choose. Instead of saying, "Where do you want to go?" you say, "I know a place. Let's go." Not because you're trying to impress, but because you've already decided. Instead of saying, "I'll try," you say, "I will," because try leaves space for excuses, but will creates commitment. Instead of saying, "Maybe someday," you say, "Today," because you understand something most men don't. Time doesn't wait, and hesitation is just a slow form of self-sabotage. Now let's go deeper. Because intentionality is not about being perfect. It's not about always making the right decision. It's about clarity, clear thoughts, clear values, clear direction. Even if your plan isn't perfect, having a plan already puts you ahead of most men. Why? Because most men don't have one. They wake up and react to whatever happens. They follow trends. They follow opinions. They follow emotions. but they don't lead their own lives. And that's the difference. A reactive man is shaped by life. An intentional man shapes his life. I'll try. You say, I will. Because try leaves space for excuses, but will creates commitment. Instead of saying, maybe someday, you say, today. Because you understand something most men don't. Time doesn't wait. And hesitation is just a slow form of self-sabotage. Now let's go deeper. Because intentionality is not about being perfect. It's not about always making the right decision. It's about clarity, clear thoughts, clear values, clear direction. Even if your plan isn't perfect, having a plan already puts you ahead of most men. Why? Because most men don't have one. They wake up and react to whatever happens. They follow trends. They follow opinions. They follow emotions. But they don't lead their own lives. And that's the difference. A reactive man is shaped by life. An intentional man shapes his life. The man with direction, he doesn't just stand out. He leads without even trying, and that is power. 3, the silver discipline. Now we get to the third habit, and this one is the line most men never cross. It's the difference between a man who ages with strength and a man who slowly disappears into comfort. This is what I call the silver discipline. Let's start with a hard truth. Not the kind people like to hear, but the kind that changes you if you accept it. Most men don't decline because of age. They decline because they stop. They reach 40, 50, even 60, and something inside them switches off. They stop pushing themselves. They stop learning new things. They stop demanding more from life. They settle, not because they have to, but because it's easier. They trade ambition for comfort. They trade growth for routine. They trade challenge for convenience. And slowly, quietly, they lose something they don't even notice at first. Their edge, their sharpness, their fire. And the dangerous part, it doesn't feel like failure. It feels comfortable. It feels safe. But comfort is where potential goes to die. Now here's where Stoicism draws a line. Because Stoicism doesn't believe in standing still. It teaches something deeper, something most men forget. A man's duty is to continue becoming, not for applause, not for validation, not for anyone else, but for himself, for his own self-respect. Because at the end of the day, you are the one who lives with your choices. You are the one who feels whether you gave up or kept going. Now, let's understand discipline the right way, because most men misunderstand it. They think discipline is punishment, something harsh, something restrictive. But real discipline is not punishment. It's alignment. It's waking up and doing what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. It's training your body not to impress anyone, but to stay strong, capable, ready. Because a weak body eventually weakens the mind. It's sharpening your mind, learning new things, so you don't become outdated in a world that keeps evolving. It's holding yourself to a standard even when no one is watching, even when no one would notice if you didn't. Because discipline is not about being seen. It's about who you are when no one is looking. Now, here's why this matters more than you think. When an older man is disciplined, people notice. Not because he talks about it, but because it shows in the way he moves, in the way he speaks, in the way he carries himself. He sends a message without saying a word. I am still in control. Not of other people, not of the world, but of himself. And that is one of the most respected qualities a man can have, because controlling others is easy compared to this. Controlling your habits, your impulses, your comfort, that's the real challenge. And when a man proves that he can control himself, he becomes someone others naturally respect. Not because he demands it, but because he embodies it. Now let's bring this into your life, not as theory, but as action. Here's your challenge. Pick one hard thing, just one. Not 10, not 5, one. Something that pushes you, something that forces you to grow. It could be physical, a demanding fitness goal, a daily discipline that tests your limits. It could be mental, learning a new skill, studying something complex, building something from nothing. Or it could be personal, raising your standards, breaking a bad habit, becoming more consistent. No matter what. And then commit. Not for a week, not until it feels good, but long enough for it to become part of who you are. Because this is the shift most men never make. They focus on results, but results come and go. What stays is identity. When you become a disciplined man, you don't need motivation anymore. You don't need to feel ready, you just act, because that's who you are. And here's the truth most people won't say. A man who is still growing is always more powerful than a man who thinks he has already arrived. Now, let's go deeper, because there is one more habit. Invisible, quiet, but incredibly powerful. The ability to listen without judging. This is where most men fail, without even realizing it, because they think listening means staying quiet. But that's not listening, that's waiting. Most men don't listen to understand. They listen to reply. They wait for their turn to speak, to give advice, to fix the situation, to prove they're right. But real listening, it's rare. And because it's rare, it's powerful. Real listening looks different. It's sitting with someone and giving them your full attention. No distractions, no interruptions, no assumptions, no need to control the conversation. Just presence. And presence is something people feel immediately. You can't fake it, you either give it or you don't. When someone feels truly heard, something changes. They relax, they open up, they trust you. Because being heard is one of the deepest human needs. And when you give that to someone without judgment, without rushing, without trying to fix them, you create something rare. Connection. And connection builds trust. That's why people remember the man who listens. Not the loudest man, not the one who talks the most, but the one who made them feel understood. And here's the Stoic truth behind it all. A wise man speaks less and understands more. He doesn't rush to judge. He doesn't rush to respond. He observes. He studies. He pays attention. And in that quiet observation, he sees things others miss. He understands people on a deeper level, and that understanding becomes his advantage. So when you combine this discipline of the body, discipline of the mind, and discipline of your presence, you become something rare, something powerful, something unforgettable. And that's the kind of man who doesn't chase respect. Respect finds him. Understand this. Your age is not something to hide. It's something to use. Because a man who masters himself over time becomes something rare in today's world. Calm, intentional, disciplined. And when you carry these habits, you don't chase respect anymore. Respect finds you. If this video gave you a new perspective, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to Silent Stoic for more content like this. And I want to hear from you. Comment below Anchor if you're committing to becoming more disciplined, more intentional, and emotionally unshakable this year. Stay focused, stay sharp, and I'll see you in the next one.